Brennus, the chieftain of the Senones. He is the reason Rome stopped trusting in walls and started trusting in legions. In 390 BC, we were small, arrogant. He came down from the north like an avalanche. Our armies fled. He walked into the city, slaughtered the Senate in their thrones, and burned it all to the ground. The moment that defined the Roman soul happened at the foot of the Capitol. We were defeated, paying a humiliating ransom in gold to make him leave. The Roman magistrates complained that the weights on the scale were rigged, cheating us. Brennus laughed. He threw his heavy sword onto the scale, increasing the price even more, and spoke the phrase that haunts us to this day: Vae victis. Woe to the vanquished. He was right. That day, we learned the hardest lesson of all. Justice, law, and honor are worthless if you don't have the steel to back them up. Rome never paid for peace with gold again. From that day on, we paid only with iron. Viriathus, the ghost of Lusitania. Most chieftains we faced were kings or nobles in shining armor. Viriathus was different. He was a shepherd. He didn't fight wars. He led a manhunt. In Iberia, we learned the hard way that a legion is useless if it cannot find the enemy. Viriathus used the terrain. He attacked our supply columns, lured our centurions into narrow gorges, and then vanished into the mist. He called it fire war. We called it hell. For years, he humiliated praetor after praetor. He wore armor stolen from dead Romans. And how did mighty Rome defeat this shepherd? In open battle? No. We used the coward's weapon: bribery. The consul Caepio paid 3 of Viriathus's lieutenants. They went into his tent at night and stabbed him in the throat, the only place his armor didn't cover, while he slept. When the traitors came to our camp asking for payment, the Senate responded with the famous line, "Rome does not pay traitors." It's a beautiful line. We sound noble saying it, but the truth is, we needed traitors because we couldn't beat the shepherd with swords. Jugurtha, the king of Numidia. Some barbarians attack us with fury. Jugurtha attacked us with the truth. He served in our legions in Spain. He saw how we fought, yes, but more importantly, he saw how much our generals and senators loved money. When he usurped the throne and started slaughtering his rivals, Rome should have intervened. Instead, Jugurtha opened his coffers. He bought generals to lose battles on purpose. He bought tribunes to veto laws against him. He turned our foreign policy into an auction. His most famous quote, spoken as he left Rome after bribing half the Senate to get out of a murder charge, still burns: Rome, a city for sale and doomed to quick destruction if it should find a buyer. He was right. He exposed our moral rot. It took Gaius Marius and Sulla, men too brutal to be bought at that moment, to finally capture him. He died naked, starving, and mad in the Tullianum, our darkest dungeon. He died like an animal, but to the end, he laughed at us. Because he knew we didn't defeat him. His price just got too high. Vercingetorix, king of the Arverni. Most barbarians lose because they are tribal. They hate their neighbors more than they hate us. Vercingetorix performed a miracle. He united Gaul. He was a brilliant strategist. He knew he couldn't beat Julius Caesar's legions in the open field, so he fought our stomachs. The scorched earth tactic. He burned his own villages, his own farms, poisoned his wells. He preferred to see his people starve than to see Caesar fed. That is resolve. He even defeated Caesar at Gergovia. Few men in history made the divine Julius retreat. But it all ended at Alesia, the greatest siege in history. Vercingetorix was inside with 80,000 men. Caesar made us build not one, but 2 massive walls. One to keep the Gaul in, and another to protect us from the relief army outside. When the food ran out and hope died, Vercingetorix made the final choice. He rode out in his finest armor, rode to the Roman camp, and threw his weapons at Caesar's feet. A sacrifice to save his remaining men. Caesar showed no mercy. He kept him in chains for 6 years, just to parade him in his triumph and then strangle him in the dark. Vercingetorix died like a criminal, but he fought like a king. Arminius, the traitor. Most names on this list I speak with respect. This one I speak with hate. Arminius wasn't just a Cherushi chieftain. He was a Roman citizen, a knight. He grew up in our camps, learned our language and our tactics. We gave him a sword and a title, and he used it all to slit our throats. In 9 AD, he tricked the governor Varus. He led us into the Teutoburg Forest. He knew that a legion is unbeatable in the open field, but vulnerable when marching in a thin line, in the rain and mud, surrounded by trees. He waited for the perfect moment, and then he unleashed hell. He used our own tactics against us, discipline against discipline. 3 entire legions, the 17th, the 18th, and the 19th, were slaughtered. 20,000 men. Officers committed suicide rather than be captured and sacrificed in the swamps. Varus's head was cut off and sent as a warning. Emperor Augustus banged his head against the palace walls, screaming, "Varus, give me back my legions!" They never came back. Arminius taught us that the most dangerous enemy isn't the stranger with an axe. It's the friend who knows where your armor has a gap. Boudica, queen of the Iceni. We Romans pride ourselves on logic. But in Britannia, we were stupid. We were cruel without purpose, and we paid the price in blood. When her king died, he left half his kingdom to Emperor Nero and half to his daughters. It was a fair deal, but the local administrators, greedy fools, ignored the will. They plundered the lands, flogged Queen Boudica in public, and raped her 2 daughters. They thought they had broken her spirit. Wrong. They started a fire. Boudica didn't fight for land. She fought for pure vengeance. She rallied the tribes. They burned Camulodunum. They burned Verulamium. And they burned Londinium to the ground. There was no mercy. 70,000 Roman citizens and allies were butchered. They didn't take prisoners. They impaled and burned. There is a layer of red and black ash under London today. It's the Boudica layer, the scar she left on the earth. In the end, our legions defeated her at Watling Street, using discipline against the raging mob. She poisoned herself rather than be taken, but the lesson was carved into every soldier on the island. You can steal a king's gold, but never touch a Celtic mother's daughters. Decebalus, king of the Dacians. This man was a thorn in Rome's side for 20 years. Dacia, in what is now Romania, is a natural mountain fortress. And Decebalus turned those mountains into a death trap. He wasn't a savage running around naked. He built stone citadels, used deserter Roman engineers, and stolen siege engines. He humiliated Emperor Domitian. He defeated our legions and forced Rome to pay an annual tribute to him. Imagine that. The empire paying protection money to a barbarian. An absolute disgrace. It took the best soldier to ever wear the purple Trajan to end the party. Trajan built the bridge over the Danube, marched straight to Decebalus's capital, Sarmizegetusa, and took it apart stone by stone. Surrounded, his guard dead, and Romans advancing through the trees. Decebalus did what a king does. He didn't surrender. He knelt by a tree and slit his own throat with his curved knife. We took his head back to Rome and threw it on the steps of the Forum. But he died free, and he took a mountain of our gold with him to the grave. Fritigern, chieftain of the Tervingian Goths. Many barbarians tried to invade Rome. Fritigern was different. We invited him in, and it was our greatest administrative mistake. He and his people were fleeing the Huns. They asked for asylum. Emperor Valens let them cross the Danube. But our local governors were corrupt to the bone. Instead of feeding the refugees, they sold rotten dog meat in exchange for Gothic children as slaves. We treated proud warriors like stray dogs, so they bit back. Fritigern revolted, and at Adrianople, in 378 AD, he did the unthinkable. He didn't use heavy infantry. He used heavy cavalry. Emperor Valens, arrogant and impatient, attacked without waiting for reinforcements. It was a slaughter. Fritigern surrounded our legions. It was so hot and crushed that our soldiers couldn't even lift their arms to use their gladi. 2/3 of the Eastern army died. And Emperor Valens? Some say he died fighting. Others say he hid in a hut, and the Goths burned it with him inside. Fritigern taught us that the age of infantry was over. The age of cavalry had begun. And Rome's invincibility died that afternoon. Alaric, king of the Visigoths. 800 years after Brennus, another barbarian walked through the gates of Rome. But Alaric wasn't a stranger. He was a product of our failure. He served in the Roman army. He commanded Roman troops. All he wanted was an official rank and land for his people inside the empire. He wanted to be Roman. But the Senate, arrogant and stupid in their safety at Ravenna, spat on him time and again. Broken promises, withheld payments. Alaric had no choice. He marched on Rome. He besieged the city not to destroy it, but to negotiate. The Senate refused to budge. Hunger set in. People started whispering about cannibalism. In 410 AD, the gates opened, probably by starving slaves. And Alaric walked in. The sack of Rome. The shockwave went from Hadrian's Wall to Jerusalem. The Eternal City was violated. But Alaric was strangely civilized. He ordered churches to be spared and bloodshed minimized. He didn't want to destroy Rome. He just wanted Rome to pay what it owed. He died soon after, of fever. His men diverted the Bucento River to bury him in the riverbed and then killed the slaves who dug the grave, so no one would ever rob the man who robbed Rome. Attila the Hun. The other chieftains on this list were men. Attila was a natural disaster. He came from the steppes, pushing all other barbarian tribes into our territory. He didn't want land to farm. He didn't want citizenship. He wanted extortion. He called himself the scourge of God. And he was right. His army wasn't slow infantry. They were mounted archers. Fast, lethal, with faces marked by ritual scars that terrified our recruits. He said, "Where my horse treads, the grass never grows again." It took Rome's last great general, Flavius Aetius, to stop him at the Catalonian plains, and Aetius had to do the unthinkable, ally with the Visigoths. Romans and barbarians fighting side by side, just to stop the world from ending. It was a slaughter so brutal that legends say the ghosts of the dead kept fighting in the sky for days. Attila survived to march on Rome itself. The emperor was hiding, powerless. It was Pope Leo who went out to meet him. No one knows what was said. Maybe gold, maybe divine threat. But Attila turned back. And how did the monster who almost broke the world die? Not by the sword. He died choking on his own blood, drunk on his wedding night with his latest wife. A dirty, human end for a man who thought he was a divine punishment. The provocator, the challenger. Most gladiators are circus freaks with strange equipment to amuse the mob. The provocator is different. He is a professional.